Hello everyone, welcome to the July monthly rundown for books releasing. I have an itchy eye. Hello everyone, welcome to the July monthly rundown for books releasing in the sci-fi and fantasy categories. I'm going to run you through, as usual, my most anticipated reads from those genres, and I'll read you through the synopses, and I'll show you the cover arts and give you my thoughts. But we won't waste any time, let's get straight into it. So, first of all, we're going to jump straight into the fantasy books. Now, I have two fantasy books and two sci-fi books. Reason being, I haven't got a lot of recording time at the minute. Unfortunately, I'm prepping for some pretty big life events, but we'll get straight into it. First up, we have The Night Ends with Fire. Now, this is by KX Song, and this is a bit of a Mulan-inspired slash retelling, and the synopsis goes as follows. The three kingdoms are at war, but Malin's father refuses to answer the imperial draft. Trapped by his opium addiction, he plans to sell Malin for her dowry. But when Malin discovers her husband-to-be is another violent, ill-tempered man, she realises that nothing will change for her unless she takes matters into her own hands. The very next day, she disguises herself as a boy and enlists in her father's place. In the army, Malin's relentless hard work brings her recognition, friendship, and a growing closeness with Sky, a prince-turned-training partner. But has she simply exchanged one prison for another? As her kingdom barrels towards destruction, Malin begins to have visions of a sea dragon spirit that offers her true power and freedom, but with a deadly price. With the future of the three kingdoms hanging in the balance, Malin will need to decide whom to trust. Sky, who inspires her loyalty and love. The sea dragon spirit, who has his own murky agenda, or an infuriating enemy prince who makes her question everything she once knew about her kingdom and about her own heart. Messed up a bit at the end there. Sorry. Now, this sounds interesting. The reason why I've included this on this list, and before I forget it, this releases on July 2nd. So this is actually already out. So if you like the sound of it and you like the story of Mulan, go pick it up. The reason why I've included this on this list is purely because I quite like the story of Mulan, the original. I'm not going to talk about the remake. But this is it seems like an inspired. It says in the description of the book, it says that it's inspired by the tale of Mulan. I would probably lean towards more the fact that it's just a retelling. It's basically just taken the same story and just slapped a bit of paint on it. And maybe that's a bit of a cynical way of looking at it, but that's just my opinion. I think that it's pretty much just Mulan. Even the name Meilin, Mulan, it's quite close. Regardless, it's a good story, and I'm quite intrigued to see, what KX Song actually does with this story and sort of see how it sort of tapers off. Does it follow the original route, or does the author do something different with this, something new, something fresh? I think that's definitely going to be on my read list. I'm not going to be pushing it up towards the top, that's for sure. I think that if it does stick to Mulan, then it's a story I've already heard, seen, as I should say. So yeah, it's definitely one to read, but it'll be an as and when I get to it kind of book. But interesting nonetheless. Next up for fantasy, we have The West Passage by Jared Pekacek, and the synopsis goes straight like this. When the Guardian of West Passage died in her bed, the women of Grey Tower fed her to the crows and went back to their chores. No successor was named as Guardian, no one took up the fallen blade. The West Passage went unguarded. Now, snow blankets grey in the height of summer, foretelling the coming of the beast. The two young mother of Greyhouse and the Guardian's unnamed squire set out to save their people. Their narrow shoulders bear a heavy burden. Before them lies the West Passage, home to horrors and delights that defy imagining. None can say if they'll reach their destinations, but one thing is for sure, the world is about to change. I think it's a short synopsis and doesn't really give too much away, but I think that sounds really cool. The sort of, as I was reading these, the bit that got me in the synopsis was the West Passage, home to horrors and delights that defy imagining. Something about that line just set my imagination alight. It gave me sort of, Feywild. Those of you that play D&D will be familiar with that, and those of you that are sort of familiar with the Fey. So sort of like trickery and teasing and tantalizing adventurers with gold and basically anything their dreams could desire. But also the horror side of it, which sort of gave me sort of outer gods sort of eldritch horror or cosmic horror sort of vibes, and I mean that is my cup of tea right there. So I think this sounds really really cool actually, and I'm really really interested to sort of see where that story goes. And it's a bit of a classic tale, really, isn't it? Like someone who sort of adventure or a burden, we should say, is thrust upon their shoulders, and it says so. It says so much in the passage, but they've got to go out and save everyone, and it's just a classic tale, classic sort of setup for a story, and I think it sounds really good. So the West Passage by Jared Pekacek comes out on July 16th, so in a few days from now. If that sounds like your cup of tea, why don't you go ahead and pick it up? So we'll move on to sci-fi now. Again, I have 2 books. One of them is, I'm not ashamed to admit it. No, I am ashamed to admit it. Bit of both. Is my own book. I have a pretty exciting new sort of announcement, so we'll get onto that in a minute. But first, we'll get straight into the first of the sci-fi books that I'm excited for in July. So, the first book that I have in the sci-fi category is The Building That Wasn't. This is by Abigail Miles, and this is releasing on July 16th, so again, in a few days from now. The synopsis goes as follows. When Everly Tertium, or Tertium, encounters a strange man in the park claiming to be her grandfather, she is invited to visit a mysterious apartment building. There, she finds herself in a constant state of deja vu, impossibly certain that she's already lived through these moments, already been introduced to these people, already visited all of these rooms and floors. So why does she have no idea what's happening to her? The longer she stays in the building, the more Everly becomes convinced there is more going on than meets the eye. Something is off. Time seems to pass differently, and the people living there seem trapped. Slowly, Everly begins to wonder if she is trapped too. But would she even want to leave, if she could? I think that sounds really cool. Really, really cool. It doesn't give a lot away, and I think that suits the book, at least my very limited understanding of the book. It seems really sort of, psychological. It seems a bit of a mystery, sort of wondering what's going on with the building, what's going on with Everly, what's going on with the sort of stranger that obviously is claimed to be her grandfather. It leaves a lot of questions, and I think that's the most important bit. And it definitely sort of grabs my attention, and I'm sort of sat here thinking, I wonder what is going on, which is the point, and I think they've done that really well. So, Abigail Miles, I am looking forward to seeing what you've done with this story, and this is definitely going on my read list, and probably going to bump it up a few spaces as well. My to read list is getting pretty long, so yeah, we'll get around to it eventually. I might do a review of this one. I haven't done a review yet on the channel, so I'm sort of looking for that. There's one coming actually very, very soon. I'm looking down to the book right now because I'm going to record it straight after this. But yeah, I think that sounds really cool. But without further ado, we'll move on to the next sci-fi book. So the next sci-fi book, I realise I say so a lot. The next sci-fi book is, now I'll hold my hands up. This is a shameless plug. I feel really awkward doing these, so I won't go on too long. But if you stuck around this long, I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much. But I'm really, really excited. This is the second book that I've ever written and completed. This is a little bit shorter than Relic's Dawn. So Relic's Dawn hovers around 90,000 words, or ish, 90,000 or so words off the top of my head. This new book, which is called Collapse, which is a We Rotten Few book. We Rotten Few being the series. It is around 27,000 words. So it's a novella, so it's a little bit shorter than a novel. Very, very excited though. It's a little bit of a passion project for me. I know I said that about Relic's Dawn. They're kind of two separate passions. I really like sci-fi, not hard, but like military sci-fi, and then this is also sci-fi, but sits within the sort of zombies genre. There's a little bit more to it than sci-fi, and it's kind of hard to fit into a genre. I don't want to give too much away because I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, if you do decide to read the book, again, I will appreciate that immensely if you do, but you'll understand what I mean by that in terms of it being hard to fit into a genre. But the synopsis goes as follows. Jack's mundane life in a quiet town is shattered when true horror descends upon Earth, unleashing an apocalypse. As humanity crumbles, Jack must navigate a world overrun by the undead, armed with nothing more but his wits and whatever he can grab. Unknown to him, incomprehensible forces stir in the darkness, pushing mankind's extinction ever closer. Collapse is the first chapter of We Rotten Few, a gripping tale of survival and horror, where the fight against extinction is only the beginning. Can Jack and the remaining survivors withstand the chaos and uncover the true nature of their nightmare? Dive into a chilling journey where every step could be their last. So that's Collapse. Collapse is the, as the title sort of gives it away, Collapse is the very start of the sort of outbreak, the apocalypse. And yeah, it kicks off the sort of series that I'm really looking forward to and really quite excited about. I'm already working on the next two. Just because I sort of, it sounds weird saying that out loud, sort of like, well, why would I start the third if I hadn't finished it? There's story elements that I kind of wanted to get while it was fresh in my head down onto paper. So I've done that basically. I know the general gist of the sort of next 5 books in terms of story. That will probably change. I'm a nightmare for doing that. This is actually the first series that I've properly planned out rather than just attacking it. So Relics Dawn, for example, I just attacked it, and then I've decided that there's more to be sort of told there. So I will be working. I've already started work really, but I will be working on a Relics Dawn sequel. But more on that later down the line. But yeah, this is Collapse, and this is the sort of new the new book, my latest book in a new series that I'm really excited for. So again, if you've stuck around and listened to that, I really appreciate you and thank you so much. But that is it for the sci-fi genre. Some really interesting book coming out in July this year. So I'm there's more that sound good to me. Again, it's just because I'm running low on time, unfortunately. So I'd love to be able to sort of make a video and talk about all of them or more of them at least. But no, some really interesting books coming out. If I read any and they do really take sort of tickle my fancy or sort of take me by surprise in terms of how good they were, I will be mentioning them on the channel. So stay tuned for that. But no, again, thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.